Hey everyone, it is Kate. Glad to have everyone here. It's Tuesday afternoon, end of June 2020, and we have a great, exciting topic today with an awesome guest, Amanda Aguillard. She's going to tell us about cloud accounting ecosystems, what they are, and why we need them. And this will be great for those of us to learn from her because she's been doing this for a while. She'll introduce herself, but I'm just glad to have everyone here at the Bookkeeping Side Hustle group. Chime in if you are hearing this, just so we can make sure y'all are here. I see some people watching. Amanda has said that this can be interactive, so we'll this will be a little more formal than we normally do, because she has put effort into creating like the content that we can actually learn from, and she has some slides. But jump in, type questions in the comments, and she and I will both be watching and try to answer them in real time as well. I've got some of my own, as always, no surprise there. Okay, I think I got a thumbs up from someone that they can watch, or that they can hear. So Amanda, let's share your screen, because I know you had some good info about yourself. That'll be the easiest way to do this. And who are you, girl?
Well, I'm good. Thank you for inviting me on. I love this group. This is one of my favorite Facebook groups because everybody's just so kind and generous.
That's right.
And no, they really are. They really are so nice. So, so you and I have had conversations kind of off to the side about some of this stuff, about ecosystem stuff. So thought I would just put it together and talk to the group all at once. So here we go. So here's a little bit about me. Do not feel like you have to read all this. And I'll give you the highlights. I've been a CPA for a long time. I started in big accounting firms. I had 2 babies back to back. I stopped working. I got somewhat unexpectedly divorced, and my kids were 7 and 8 at the time. So I did not want to go back to a big accounting firm.
Yeah.
This is 2012, and so I decided I would just give it a shot and try to do my own thing. So I really did have very much a side hustle in the beginning, because I was trying to get myself and these children through this, life-changing thing, and wanted to be available to them. So basically started an accounting firm out of my guest bedroom. Didn't really mean to start a firm. I was just doing, I thought at the time, some contract work. But it turns out it worked out pretty well. So started an accounting firm. And then at that time, 2012, 13, which we'll talk about in a second, it was the beginning of Xero being in the US market. At that time, QBO was terrible. And so I picked Xero as my general ledger for my clients. And because they were so new in the market, I just started figuring it all out on my own, and kind of quickly got other accountants to want me to help train their staff on Xero. So I created this training company called Elephant, and here we are. So that's
we are.
So,
and now you're teaching us.
Now, yeah, I teach a lot of folks. I do still have my accounting practice down in New Orleans, but it's really a lifestyle practice. I do probably 2/3 of my time is spent training. So I just wanted to let the folks know, and I know a lot of people already know this about what we do at Elephant. We offer lots of different kinds of training, online courses, webinars. I actually kind of hitting the timeout on webinars right now because I'm writing a book on Xero. So I'm going to write a comprehensive guide to using Xero in the US. So that is taking my time right now. So we're not really doing the webinars that we would normally do. But
you also,
I know.
You also hosted the Salon V that a lot of us attended. I still have replays of that in my head from 2 months ago. It was a real blessing for a lot of folks that we were able to do that. You're able to extend that to us because of COVID.
Yeah, that was awesome. That turned out to be just a crazy, wild success. And I would encourage folks to come to our website, elephanttraining.com, and sign up for our newsletter and our announcements. I will promise you that we do not spam people because I am too busy to come up with newsletters. I do a really terrible job at that. But there is a possibility that we may run another Salon Bee this year.
Okay.
So that would be where we would announce it, is through our newsletter.
Everyone should sign up. I'm on our email list and I don't get spam. So
yeah, I don't. I really don't, because I'm just, like I said, I'm just too busy to come up with stuff. But anyway, another thing that we do have that I know a lot of your folks are involved or have signed up for is our learning library. So our learning library is some of our popular webinars and downloads. And in honor of coming to sit here with you today, I've created a $5 off promo code. That's $5 off per month of the subscription.
Cool.
So 5 off 2020. And Kate has done a great job of helping us to get the word out on that. So I know you do have a specific link that folks can use to,
I do.
if they're interested.
I can post it here in the comments as well. Yeah, I have, well, unfortunately, I haven't watched as many of the Elephant Learning Library stuff. There was I would say like December, January, February, I watched most of the videos when the gym was open. I would be on the Stairmaster watching someone talk about some of it was more advanced than I needed, but it was like it was good digestible stuff that I kind of treated like a podcast. So it's not like it's not so formal as like a library, maybe make it sound. It was just great content. So
thanks. Well, just to reassure the folks that are out there, it's not all me talking. It's a lot of other very smart people who have put their content up on our site. But for me, if anybody is interested in Xero, there is a ton of Xero content in there. So, okay, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking.
Perfect. Yes, tell us. Keep going.
So let's talk about cloud accounting and ecosystems and what they are and why you need them. So, so please put your questions up here, because this is really like a 101 kind of presentation. Okay, so please, if you have questions, ask them. Don't be afraid to ask, because I'm sure there's somebody out there who has the same question. So we're going to start with Cloud 2.0 and why I think that's kind of where we are right now in the whole spectrum of cloud ecosystems, choosing solutions and technology, and then open for Q&A. Okay. So so let's talk about what I think Cloud 1.0 is or was. I am in New Orleans, and this
you are.
This is a pic of Katrina. That's right. Yeah. So this is 2005. So I was actually had just had my son Jack and was wrapping up my job as a controller at a company, and we evacuated. And this is what we ended up with in New Orleans. And the reason that I can equate this with Cloud 1.0 is that, to me, at it was this point where people started thinking, okay, I probably shouldn't keep my data on site, right? I probably shouldn't keep my accounting data in my place of business, exclusively in my place of business, right? Because it's so vulnerable. So what happened in New Orleans is everybody left their offices on Friday afternoon, said, we'll see you next week. Like, hope those people in Florida make it through Katrina, because on Friday afternoon it was going to Florida. And then Monday morning, levees break, and it was horrible. So a lot of folks in New Orleans physically lost their accounting data. Okay, so it was flooded, servers were ruined. If it wasn't the water, it was the heat. So this was the end of August of 2005. So if you have on-site servers, on-premise servers, you introduce 100-degree temperatures and 100-degree humidity. Even if they weren't physically flooded, they were probably ruined.
Right.
And then even if you were somehow safe, maybe in an outlying part of the city that did not flood, if you literally, legally could not get to your data because the city was on lockdown under martial law. So I think Cloud Point 1 was like, I think that we should maybe start keeping our data somewhere else, not on site.
Yeah.
And then, so flip that to move forward a couple years, 2013. At this point, as I mentioned in my introduction, I had just started an accounting firm. I looked around for a cloud solution. At that time, I wanted to be available to my kids. If they were sick, I wanted to be the one to stay home with them. I didn't want to have a nanny or a babysitter. I wanted to be present. I wanted to travel with my children, so I deliberately built a firm that I could run from anywhere in the world, thinking we would go some glamorous places, but really we never did. But anyway,
Shreveport. You're gonna go to Shreveport.
Well, it's funny because both my kids are in travel sports, and so we do go glamorous places like Shreveport, like St. Louis, Mississippi, and
Jackson.
Jackson, Birmingham is kind of exotic sounding, right?
There you go.
So it didn't exactly work out the way I thought it was going to, but it turns out when you wire a business to work from anywhere in the world, you can work from your house really easily when you're stuck at home during a pandemic. So it's the same way. So anyway, so going to 2012, 2013, everybody, QuickBooks was and still is the biggest software, small business software package in the U.S. QuickBooks Online was a secondary product to QuickBooks Desktop at this time. It was not a great product. Xero comes into the market in 2012. Always being a cloud-based product it was built in New Zealand, comes into the US, and frankly, Intuit starts to panic because they know they've got like some serious competition. So what happened in 2013 is that, and y'all stick with me because this is relevant, and we'll explain why this is important in the whole scheme of things. 2013 at a conference, Brad Smith, who was the CEO at the time of Intuit, announces that two things. One is that they're taking virtually all of their resources and putting them to QBO, to QuickBooks Online. So they're going to put all their development money into QuickBooks Online. So they fully commit to the online platform. And the second thing that they do is that they announce that they are going to open up the QuickBooks API. Okay.
What's an API? I hear it all the time.
API? Yeah. So API it stands for Application Programming Interface. It's basically the connector points between software. Okay. So generally cloud-based software, it's the point where those different packages can talk to each other. So for QuickBooks prior to this point, if you were a developer, if you owned some kind of software package like Bill.com, T-Sheets, whatever there were back then, which there weren't that many, if you owned or were a stakeholder in one of these packages and you wanted to connect into QuickBooks, you had to pay Intuit for each connection. Okay, and I think David Leary, who used to work there, told me it was about $5 per connection per month.
Like per client, like every Bill.com customer. Okay.
Yes. So you guys are accountants and bookkeepers, you think about this and you're like, well, if I have to pay to connect to your software, I'm going to have to charge a lot more. The profit motive isn't really there. It's a kind of a hassle to do it, or it's going to cost me a lot of money to do it. So maybe there's just not as much of a profit motive. Well, Brad Smith says in November of 2013, they're not going to charge developers to connect into the QuickBooks API anymore. So then we're off to the races, because anybody who wants to build an application that can connect into QuickBooks can do it for free, right?
So let me ask a question real quick. So because I think I must have just done this. So I just brought a new client onto Gusto. And when I have Gusto connected to his QuickBooks file, it's automatically making a journal entry for me. Like I connected the two. Mm-hmm. Is that an API between Gusto and QuickBooks?
Yep.
Okay, there you go. I'm figuring it out. Cool.
Yep, you got it. You're gonna totally be an expert by the time we get through.
I thought it was magic.
It is magic. APIs are magic. Okay, so the reason this is important is because now there's like all this competition between. And just to be clear, Xero never charged for API connections. So Xero had a marketplace coming into the US that was probably bigger than Intuit's, but now we've got Intuit, Xero racing with all these apps coming into the market. So 2013, it just blows up, right? This is when all these apps start to pop up and get really good. QBO gets a lot better starting in 2013. So that's what I'm calling Cloud 2.0. Cloud 2.0 is not the image of taking data, static data, and sticking it in another server away from you. Cloud 2.0 is having real-time access always to the same data. So you can right now log into your clients in QBO, your clients can log into it, Gusto can tap into it. You're all working from the same single ledger, because those are cloud-based products.
Yeah.
Versus the idea of desktop software that somebody has to store somewhere else. Okay, so Cloud 2.0 is working in the cloud, not just storing in the cloud.
Okay.
So let's get to some definitions of things. Ecosystem. What is an ecosystem? We hear this thrown around all the time. What is an ecosystem? To me, an ecosystem is the holistic community of apps, applications that a business uses, and those connections. So if you're the client you just mentioned, you may have more than this, but you mentioned QBO and Gusto. So that is the ecosystem. If you had a separate timekeeping system that plugged into Gusto to generate payroll, that would be part of the ecosystem of that business. So the ecosystem is the aggregation of all the apps and their connections that we use to run a business.
So the way you're describing it more from my client, Pete, his business. It's his accounting ecosystem, and I happen to be setting it up for him. Yeah. I was thinking of this. I've been thinking about this for days. Like I've got little questions in the middle of the night that I'm writing down. I was thinking that you were going to teach us how to think about this, like that I, as a bookkeeper, have an ecosystem that I deliver, that I offer to clients. So,
you mean that you? So every business has an ecosystem. Okay. So whether you're choosing it for your client or your client has it, that's their ecosystem. The apps that you use internally for your business, that's your ecosystem. So at the bottom we have internal versus external.
Okay. So I'm jumping ahead.
That's okay. Sorry. So this is the way I think about it, because when I talk to bookkeepers and accountants, I think it's really important to figure out, like, wherever you're starting on this journey, figure out one or the other first. And generally I say we start with the internal. So internal is your personal tech stack for your accounting business. Okay. External would be what your clients use. Okay. And there are definitely overlaps, and we'll see that in a second. But but I think it's important, because what I always ask people to do is to map it out. Think about mapping out your internal or external ecosystem. I
like the idea of saying to a potential client, that I help you build the accounting ecosystem for your company. That sounds hot.
Well, that's what we do.
Hot money. Yeah. I'm going to help you build your accounting ecosystem. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Okay. So API, we talked about, those are the points in the ecosystem between the apps. That's called the API, or those are called the APIs. A tech stack is the same thing pretty much as an ecosystem. To me, I think about a tech stack as being, if I think about it visually, a tech stack is probably a list of apps. So my tech stack for me internally, Lord, I'm not gonna be able to remember all of it, but would be Xero, Gusto, Google, G Suite,
Zapier.
Totally, Zapier. Relay is one of our banks. Like that would be our tech stack. Would be all those pieces. The ecosystem to me is all those pieces, but like kind of mapped out visually. It's like a chart. Okay. So let's talk about APIs just a little bit more. APIs, and I should put integrations on here as well. So an integration would be the details behind a specific API connection. Okay, so an integration is going to be how two pieces of software talk to each other, the details of that. Okay. In this example, we have an app. So we want you to pick any app. Pick an app, any app.
I'll pick.
Hopefully one I know.
Expensify.
Okay. Expensify. Great. So let's put Expensify on the green square. Xero's on the right. That's our general ledger. It could be QBO. Expensify and QBO or Xero, how are they going to talk? They're going to talk through this API. So when we're thinking about integrations, one of the first things we need to identify is whether the integration is a one-way or two-way sync. Okay, so Expensify, I'm pretty sure, is a two-way sync, which means that there is information coming from one direction into the general ledger, and there's information from the general ledger coming out. So an expense app might push down into Xero a payment or a bill to be paid, right? So Expensify says we're collecting all this information from our employees. We owe them $30.
Right.
So Expensify sends into Xero a bill that says you need to pay Kate $30. So it's a payable. depending on the way this is set up, there's like so many caveats because there are different ways to actually do the payment using Expensify. But if we mark that it's paid in the general ledger, the sync goes back to Expensify and say, okay, take it off the books, it's paid. That's a two-way sync, okay? In contrast, so when we're looking at these arrows, it's, the arrows are going both ways. We're sending data. The integration is two-way. It's sending data to the GL and taking data from the GL. That's a two-way sync. An example of a one-way sync would be Gusto, or most payroll companies. All they're doing is the payroll system has its purpose is to collect payroll information and to pay people. And then once that piece is done, it sends that record to the GL.
Right.
Nothing is happening in the GL that comes back up to Gusto.
Right. I'm exactly. If I want to deal with Gusto, I have to go to Gusto, log on.
That's right.
I can't get in through QuickBooks Online. Okay. Yes.
Okay. So that's one thing, just to understand how APIs work, and thinking about the data movement. It's all about where is the data flowing. Okay. So here's just another little example when we're talking about APIs. So APIs have API points, which means, and I am not a programmer, I'm not a developer, so I want to make sure I'm explaining this both accurately and approachably.
Yes.
API points are pretty much like records in the database that can be changed or can be affected. So in Xero, here are some API points that exist, meaning that these are things, I'm pointing to my screen as if you can see, these are things that—
You might be able to see you move your mouse, I'm not sure.
These are things that apps can tie into, and these are places where apps can make changes in Xero. So contacts, tracking categories, so forth. When we were talking about the Expensify, the API point would be from Expensify into accounts payable. That would be the open API point. So I'm going to go to my next screen, which will show what it looks like in something like bill.com. So you can see how on the left are the bill.com fields,
yes,
transactions that would affect the Xero API points or transactions or fields.
Okay.
Arrows are the sync. It's how does the sync go. So the double-sided arrow means that they're talking to each other back and forth, right? So if you make a change in one, it gets reflected in the other. The other arrows show the direction of the information. Okay, so I know this is a little bit complicated, but I want everyone to visually see how APIs connect to each other.
I like it. No, I think it makes sense. If y'all have any questions about APIs, or let us know, or just say your mind is hurting, or say, oh, it all makes sense now. Or you could, bring your 18-year-old child to sit next to you who does understand about developing, and you can be like, see, this is a career for you.
This is why you need to do this for a living. Okay, so when we understand the value of hang on one sec, I see a child coming in. I'm on a call. Hey, bud, you good? Okay. So we see the value of connections between software.
Yes.
How do we decide what software we use? And this is like, if I give 10 webinars, 9 of them will have questions about what software to use for this thing, what software to use for that thing. What about my car keys? Hold on one sec. My car keys?
Okay.
My car is at the mechanic. Shit, my bad. I'm on a live. I'm streaming. Sorry. Okay, love you. Bye. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. My door can open. See, y'all can see the handle in my screen. It can open at any moment.
Yeah. So I usually put a big thing on my note on my door that says I'm on a webinar, and didn't do that. So whatever.
You were saying that exactly. You were saying that you often get asked for a specific answer. What do you use for this particular issue?
All the time. All the time. And how do you keep up with it? And how do you know one's better than the other? And why do you use this platform or that? So here's our little process on how we go through this vetting or creation of ecosystems. So
Okay.
whether it's internal or external, okay, remembering internal is going to be for us as the advisors.
Yes.
External is our client facing. So first we have to understand what's going on. So this is really, really, really important. You have to figure out the process before you apply the tech, okay? So technology does not solve problems in process. If you have a terrible process, technology is not going to fix that for you, okay? So the first thing is you've got to lay out and identify what is going on. So internally, our workflow. So we need to document our internal workflow for our firms, our practices. How do I attract clients? How do I sell to clients? How do I get clients to commit to me? How do I take my clients' money? How do I get my clients' information in my system? How do I engage with them on a monthly basis, an annual basis? So documenting that workflow. And this seems like there are probably people on that are like cringing because it seems like so overwhelming to think about that. But this can be as simple as a Google Sheet or a Google Doc. It does not have to be some fancy workflow system. So if anybody's online and wants to put in the comments, I'd be curious to hear if anybody's using an official workflow tool like Trello, Asana, Carbon, any of those. But don't feel like you need one. You just need to write it down.
So I have a my Word documents were called "How to for," and I would put the client's name. I have actually just started to try to use Asana though, and it's been good. There's a gal named Alyssa Lang that's taking that has developed a course about how to use it for bookkeepers and accountants, and I've interviewed her about it, and it's been really good for me. But I don't know. I mean, it's interesting that you say that, and so this group I kind of just model it after kind of how I got started, and like I wanted to be small. I want a handful of clients. I wanted to start small. So the idea of like, well, what if I only want 2 clients for like a while? Do I need all this extra stuff? Yeah. So my process for a while was literally Word documents saved as like how to for blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. And that's fine. I mean, you can do it in anything. You can write it on a piece of paper if you want, but you have to document it somehow, because until you go through that process of thinking about it, you don't know what kind of tech you're going to need. And the same thing is true with clients, like having conversations with clients about what they're doing, what they're using, what they're actually working through. So the first step is understanding what's going on already without regards to technology. I'm gonna let the dog in. Hang on one second.
Sure.
When my son just left to go to basketball practice, he let the dog out. And so poor baby is sitting in 95-degree New Orleans heat in the sun waiting to be led in my office. So, okay, so the first thing is to understand what's going on without regards to tech. Then we want to look at what we've written down and examine it. Where are the holes? Where are the inefficiencies? What do we need in our practice that maybe is not being addressed? Are we finding that we're hand keying in too many things? Or we're keying in too many client data points? Or for our clients, are there inefficiencies there too? Are they processing payables by hand, or what is it? So take what we've written down, examine it, then pick some of those pain points to solve and go do research. And this is where the rabbit hole is started. So anybody who's gone to look for a particular piece of technology will have felt the suck of the rabbit hole, where you just start Googling and 4 hours later you are now like online shopping because you just don't even know where you've gone.
Well, yeah, and it's there's different the thing I've struggled with is like a sales tax application, and I just kind of want to crawl in a hole and die. I'm like, okay, I know there's things they're going to make this easy. Right now I'm kind of doing it manually because it's just for one client, but you know, if I wanted to like really like go down that road and pursue clients who needed that, it would be very, I think I know that I don't want to use more than one. And so it takes a lot of guts to like stake the claim, I guess. So luckily for that particular problem, sales tax, I've been able to put it off, but I feel it kind of like a scary cloud.
It's like going to show up any day. Well, I think if you go through these first pieces of it, you can eliminate pretty quickly, because if you've decided what you need ahead of time, you can just go through the list and say, well, like let's pick payroll. You know, do you offer direct debit? All the online ones do. Do you offer departmental mapping for payroll? You know, is that something if that's something your client needs? Well, if they don't offer it, then they're off the list.
Okay.
You know, or for bill payment, like if your client needs complex levels of approval for bill payment, well, there are some bill payments that are not going to be appropriate. There are some bill payment apps that are. So like if you go through the first process, you have your yeses and your nos, your needs and your, you know, requirements, then you can vet a lot faster. It's when you like don't know what you need. And they're like, well, you came in for a Camry, but this Range Rover is really nice.
Yeah. I guess one of the issues I have is like for someone like me and what I'm trying to do, would it be better to walk away from certain clients than to like try to, like, say I needed someone who needed departmental mapping for payroll, like you just said, like if that's going to take me into some product that is, you know, going to be a one-time thing that I'm not like, do I just say, you know what, I'm going to refer you to someone else because I don't need to like expand my own knowledge? I don't know. That's just a tension I have. And I've thought a lot about in advance of this call. Like sometimes it might mean if you want to be efficient with like the ecosystems you create, it might mean that's the idea of niching, I guess. Or you can even almost niche with your ecosystem. Like I don't do payroll or I don't do sales tax. So if you got sales tax, like you're out of my diagram.
That's me. We don't do sales tax. So
okay.
Yeah, we don't do
that. And I guess it's okay. So you're saying that like you have an ecosystem that like some people cannot live in. Like
totally.
They are not invited. Okay.
Not invited.
Hear that, people.
Restaurants, not invited. Restaurants are not invited in my practice. Don't do restaurants. Yeah, but you know what? I will say this too. On the flip side of that, I have heard a lot especially on social the last couple years with folks who are starting bookkeeping practices that like one of the first things they want you to do is pick a niche. You need to go find what your vertical is going to be. You're like, I barely know how to do journal entries yet. Like, how would I even know that? So I don't like hearing that you, like the first thing you're doing, you're gonna pick a name and a niche. You haven't even done one bookkeeping client. How do you know what you like? How do you know what you're good at?
Fair enough. Yeah.
You know, so so I will say that I think sometimes you have to be open to things.
Okay.
Especially your first few clients.
Right.
So let's get back to our departmental mapping example. A client requires departmental mapping. And just to be clear, in case anyone doesn't know what that is, it's the idea that you're going to split up your payroll your payroll process to different buckets, different departments, right? Okay, so if a client requires that, I mean, is it that hard to learn? Is it something that you think is only going to be valuable for the one client? I don't think so, but you know, so it just depends. Like, just give it a shot and see, and then you will have an idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for researching apps, again, it's overwhelming if you just start to Google on your own. So first, make sure you know what your requirements are, and then ask peers. That's the best way, I think, to find apps, is to ask this group or other groups on Facebook, what are you using for this? Oh, I need a payment application a bill payment application that does international payments and has at least one level of approval. Like, if you know what your requirements are, throw those up in a Facebook group and get advice.
Yeah.
You know,
what did accountants do before Facebook groups?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Facebook. Thankfully, Facebook and app technology probably grew up together.
Cloud, yeah, they're like cousins. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, and then how to implement it. So internally, run trials. Like, take whatever, you know, if you're want to try Asana for a workflow tool for yourself, and get a trial and try to break it. Like, that's what I always tell people, try to break the app during the trial, because then you'll know if it's really going to do what it is you need to do.
Okay.
And then externally, you know, if you are changing your client's technology, like let's just pick a general ledger. Let's say that you've decided, which I would love to hear, you decided that you want to go from QBO to Xero, general ledgers. That's something that's going to affect everybody. We're not going to change everybody at the same time. Like, we're not going to change everybody at the same time. We're going to pick the clients that we think are the easiest flips. So simple clients with simple operations, we're going to pilot a couple. Same thing with a payroll service. If you decide you want to go to OnPay, like you're going to be an OnPay provider, and so you're going to move your clients off of another system onto them, then we're going to pick a couple of clients to do this with to start before we do the whole practice.
So when you do that, how do you pick your clients?
The easiest ones.
The easiest.
Totally,
the easiest.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go for the easy wins. Yeah, go for the clients that are, you know, okay with change, or the clients that aren't touching the product. So
right.
Payroll, you know, your clients might not be operating in the payroll system. You might be doing it for them. They don't even know what payroll system
They don't. Yeah. I was going to ask, do you tell? At what point do you tell them?
No. Well, you're gonna have to tell them because they have to sign off on stuff. But you go for the easy wins in a pilot, and generally we say to go for between. It depends on how big your practice is, but for probably most of the folks start with about 5% of your target. Start with 5%. So if you have 100 clients, 5 clients, you have 50, 2 or 3 clients.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about some ecosystems and what this could look like for our for external ecosystems. So this would be step 1, mapping out what we need, right? So we have a professional services firm, and we always put the general ledger in the middle of the map, right? That's our general ledger. That is what we are using as the aggregation point of all of our data. General ledger in the middle. Professional services might need some project management, like you know, working on cases if you're a lawyer, receipt management, reporting, expense. So these are all the functions. So first we're going to map out the functions. Then we're going to go back and say, well, what are the right apps for these things? And then create a map for this. So whatever we end up with, we are going to physically put it on a chart. So I would suggest, if you don't have this already, go do this for every one of your clients. It is a value that you add to them, you can share with them, and it's also an internal tool. Something like a SaaS company, so a software as a service company, has different requirements, right? It's got different needs. Some of them are the same and some are different, but we start with the general ledger and then go and find the right pieces to backfill those needs. So this is an example of an ecosystem for SaaS. Let's look at e-commerce. I know some of your people have e-commerce. So general ledger in the middle, going through and picking the right pieces of what we would need to create an ecosystem. Now, cool thing about doing this this way is that everybody knows that technology changes, right? So what was a great product a year ago might not be a great product now, or might not be as good of a fit, or more likely, something that wasn't a great product a while back has now improved, and now it might fit your requirements. So when you map out your ecosystem like this, you can take the chance to maybe make those changes. I know it's at the bottom. You can say, okay, well, I want to flip out my reporting tool. You don't have to change the other 6 things. You can just change the one piece that you want to change.
Okay. Yeah.
Same thing with inventory. So most of it stays the same, but my inventory, if I have additional needs or additional requirements, I can flip that out. And this is actually another, this is when I tell you I really do this, I really do this. This is one of my clients' ecosystems that we map out. So it's really valuable.
Let me go back to that. So do you, before you sit down to work on a client, do you put your eyeballs on that real quick, or do you just do it at the beginning? Do you have it saved like in a client? Is it taped on your wall? How do we use that?
Yeah, so we
after
save
it's
it
done.
in the client's file in Box or in G Drive.
Okay.
But yeah, so and this is a couple iterations, because you're going to talk to your clients, they're going to say one thing, and you're like, oh, okay, well that makes sense, and you write it down, and then you get in the system, you're like, that's not actually how it's happening. It's happening
Right.
the other way. So this shows these arrows are the data flow. So what's going on and what we can change. So when I got the client, they had all these different ways of selling.
Yeah.
Shopify, Vend, Xero, Etsy, Eventbrite. So like some of them are connected and some are not. So at least we had a reference point. Like we worked through it until it was correct, and then we had a reference point that we were able to look at if we needed to make a change. It's cool, huh?
Yeah. No, it's really good. I have a client right now that would look somewhat similar, but I don't have it drawn out, and
Draw it out.
So everyone, I don't know if y'all are listening. So I have this one client, and I can, in my body, I can feel whenever it's time to work on her, I want to do almost anything else but work on her, because like there's an Etsy, which don't even but something like this, like if I had it to where I could, okay, when I sit down, I'm going to open this up, and it's going to help me remember. It's going to not make it seem as like, because she's thrown in the kitchen sink before she found me. And, but it would probably be, give me more peace whenever it's time to like do this, instead of just like, it's like, I remember being in college, and like, and I never had a cleaner kitchen than whenever it was like a terrible assignment, like I have to clean now. That's kind of how I feel with this one. So anyway,
well, it'll organize your thoughts, and also it's something you can bring to her when she brings another platform and say, like if she's like, hey, I'm gonna use Squarespace, because you can say, boo, look at all the ones you have. Like, if we're gonna tell me what this other platform is doing that we have documented are not, and if they're not working for you, let's replace them. So like you can use this as a teaching tool for your clients too.
Can I also say, just for like, because so you're smart, you're on the cutting edge of tech, and then this looks like nothing. I mean, this is, but it's like but it's also like everything. So this is not like, oh, what is Amanda talking about? I can't this looks like
no
document with like text boxes. Like,
no, I think this might be Lucid Charts, or it might be the Google version. I was looking at in my notes. Like sometimes I just do it on a piece of paper. Like I'm
saying, well, she's looking. I'm saying this to encourage y'all that, like, she's not speaking wizardry. She's talking about text boxes with some arrows.
Yeah, and I'll show you another thing I do too. This is a little bit dorky, but this is truly what I do. I will map out T accounts for integration.
Yay! Okay.
So this is an integration between Xero and a platform called Loft 47, and that's for real estate, realtor sales commissions management.
Okay.
I literally have a list of the transactions that occur on the general ledger. So this is at Xero.
Yeah.
And this is fake data. I'm not sharing. I'm not sharing with you actual client data. This is a fake demo account. But I will go through the general ledger and say, okay, well, this journal entry, when this thing happens in the integration, I will, this happens on the accounts. So anyway, so between those two tools, I'm telling you, and then once you start doing this, you'll create a library of stuff that you don't have to keep recreating, right? So you can just get this one and start modifying it. So anyway, so integrations, highly suggest those two things, the map and the T accounts. Okay, I know we're coming up on some time. I want to make sure we have time for questions, but I'll talk just very briefly about different kinds of integrations.
Okay.
Okay, so native integrations would be when Gusto talks to Xero. That means the developers of one or both of the app companies have built programming to make them talk. So in the Xero app marketplace, there are something like 900, I think, things that talk directly to Xero. So those are native integrations that you go into one piece of the software and you say, please talk to Xero, please talk to Gusto, whatever. That's a native integration. Zapier integration. So Zapier, as you guys have probably heard, is a third-party programming tool, essentially, that says, well, when there's not a native integration, or when there's not a native integration that's deep enough for what I want to do, connect these two pieces of cloud software using triggers and actions. So a Zap will say when a thing happens in one piece of software, like an invoice is created, then make this other thing happen in another piece of software. So it's pretty much like writing code, except you don't have to know how to write code.
Sure.
You just build your Zaps. And then you can do custom integration. So bigger firms do this a lot of times with the software doesn't talk the way they want. They will get programmers to code it. So just be mindful of that. If there's not a native integration, there could be a Zapier integration.
Okay.
Okay. Questions from you or from anyone else?
Yeah. I talk a lot. I'm looking over here. I've seen some people chime in. Thanks, Steve, for saying this is great. And Shannon talked about using lucid charts. She said that's what that chart might have been. Amanda, was it a lucid chart? I've never heard of that, so I got something to look up. Yeah. What other questions do y'all have about accounting ecosystems?
Ecosystems, integrations.
Do you have any favorite Zaps? From Steve Chase.
Oh God, all of them. I'm gonna stop sharing. I left my email, but I'm gonna stop sharing so we can chat.
Okay.
I believe that Zapier might be the most important software accountants and bookkeepers can learn in the next 5 years.
Okay.
And that's
big.
because
That's big talk.
That's big talk because you know, there's so many applications and not all of them integrate with each other. And so a lot of times clients are coming to us with their chosen operational software. So they might say, like I had somebody pop up using an e-commerce platform I had never even heard of, but he loves it. It works really well for him. It doesn't integrate with a GLs. So what we can do is hack a way to get that data out of the e-commerce platform into the general ledger using Zapier. So so without being able to show this and getting too dorky about it, Google Sheets is a spreadsheet is a platform that Zapier works with. So almost universally, you can get data out of just about any app into Google Sheets, into Google Sheets, and almost universally, apps will have import functions or Zap functions to go from Google Sheets to the app,
back
or
into them.
Google Sheets to download to a CSV to an import file into a general ledger. So I think this is a new function in QBO. It's been in Xero for a while, but you can import invoices. So a lot of times we have sales operations in some other rando platform. I can export it out, create a Zap, grab or scrape all the invoice lines, pull it into CSV, and then import that sales data into Xero.
Okay.
Excuse me.
I had a question about the Zaps too. Dang it, I forgot.
They're so awesome. I mean, like if you want to understand some cool things and be able to really help clients, go do Zapier. I know that a friend of mine, Heather Satterley, is a Zapier expert.
Okay.
She has courses on that, but it is really almost programming level stuff, but like drag and drop simple. It is awesome.
So I remembered my question. To what extent do your clients and Zapier interact, or is it all like, is the client
I would
unaware?
never let a client touch the Zapier. I would never let a client touch Zapier ever.
Do they even know? Like, do you even know? They don't? Okay. So
No.
I'm getting a better sense. Okay. Yeah, y'all chime in with more questions. We've got her for a few more minutes, and it doesn't get. I mean, access to Amanda. It's hard to come by. So here's a question I wrote down. So, well, I'll just read. I wrote, can you have an ecosystem if you want to stay small? I think you answered that, because I think my thought was maybe trying to equate the word ecosystem and niche, but that's not, they're not synonymous. They're not synonymous. So I'm kind of talking through my own answer here. The ecosystem is more of the images, the circles kind of that you drew. And so we all have an ecosystem. It's just whether it's like nice functioning, beautiful, lush little like NASA biome, or is it like some like trash dump or something? But both of those have ecosystems.
I've had both. I've had both. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking through this. So you have an accounting ecosystem whether you like it or not. It's just a matter of whether it's good, whether it's stress-inducing, whether it's connected, whether it's manual. So for me, like literally, like I do not want to go work on a specific client. That's probably like an example of I'm living in a trash dump. With my ecosystem and her is trash dump level, and I've got to make it into a, I don't know, maybe not a lush garden.
You know this was going to be a therapy session, did you?
I know. Well, I didn't expect any less.
And anybody who knows me knows I am kind of hippy dippy, and I do get into that stuff too. Like, I really believe that our tagline at Elephant is that we help accountants and bookkeepers leverage technology to build their dream practices. So your dream practice, I'm sorry, I'm feeding the dog ice. It's just
You're fine.
So your dream practice might be different than my dream practice. You know, one of us might have a dream to scale and get huge. One of us might have a dream to work from, 10 to 3, 4 days a week, whatever our dream practice is. It's about leveraging technology. But I really do believe in true happiness and joy and work. I don't think they're fighting concepts. I think they're a symbiotic concept. You should, when you feel that in your gut, something's not good.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's several things that aren't good, but I can honestly say that for this particular instance, I know it's not all the client. And it's because, like, if I were to do a lot of stuff that you've said, and then 3 months from now, if I'm still kind of feeling that way, then maybe, but, it's the most complex one I have, and I've been able to get by and make, earn the kind of money I've wanted to make with pretty simple ones. And so it's just kind of like, I feel like it's all in my head, and it's, I have to relearn, there's like inertia, like I have to relearn every time. And so like, I can't go in running. It's like, it takes me 15 minutes or 20 minutes to like get going. And then if I have to, my situation is I don't work big, long chunks of hours. So like, I can't have 20 minutes of build up every time I go back to work on a client. I need it to be much quicker. So, So maybe take some of these steps and try and get it to where you have a cookbook for this client. Yeah. Create your cookbook or your playbook for them so that you aren't depending on your memory to do it. You can just say, okay, here it is when I need it. Yeah. I got there's some more here. Well, Shannon is just saying she uses Zapier and Integromat because some of my apps only work with one or the other. Is Integromat a competitor to Zap? Don't know it.
Never heard of it. But
okay. Sorry, Shannon. But you know what you're doing, so you keep at it, girl. Michael says, do you let clients steer you to apps, or are you steering them based on their needs?
That's a good question. It depends, to be honest. Like, a lot of times we're steering them. But if I have a client that shows up on my doorstep, a couple things. If I have a client that shows up on the doorstep and says, I demand to use this app, like, I want to know why. And I want to know why they left the person they just left. Did the person kick them out because of the app? So most of the time our clients come to us and they're like, we're starting a new business, or we have desktop software and we hate it. So we can put them on the right thing. Okay. But I will say there are certain things that I draw the line on. Like, I do not take QBO clients. We are Xero. So like, that's my line is at the general ledger. That's one of my lines. I will not take clients who don't have an integrated payroll platform. So if they're using Miss Mary down the street, who's going to mail them a report every month that's their payroll, we're not going to handle them. We're going to put them on a cloud-based package, or we're not going to take them because that's just inefficient. That's inefficient. I'm not going to wait on somebody to email me something. I want to be able to pull it real time. But on like operational stuff, we have a lot of law firm clients, and lawyers use different things. It just depends. It really just depends.
Okay. So Michael, you just have to kind of feel that out. Yeah. I could imagine too, like, who is the client? Is this someone that's going to open a lot of doors? Like, it's all a negotiation, and who brings more to the table? And there might be clients who bring a whole lot to the table, and so you know what? Okay, I will I will do this thing that I maybe wouldn't normally do, but that's because I know you're going to bring me 10 more clients. Maybe, and then all those other clients that he brings, you'll be able to steer. But with this one, you're like, well,
Well, it
helped
depends
me.
where you are in your journey, your career journey.
Yeah.
Too. Like part of this is about learning. So maybe you want to learn about new apps.
Yeah.
But at this point in, like, for me in my career, there are certain apps that I just won't work with. Like either I just know they're terrible or just we've made that decision. So like there's some law firm apps that if somebody shows up and says, well, I use PC Law as one. We use PC Law, we are never moving from it. Like there are tons of other accountants, you can go find somebody else.
Okay. Diana says, sounds like you use a lot of apps. Isn't that a little overwhelming and hard to keep track of?
Yes, sometimes, yes.
Okay.
It is. The ones that we're currently using, I say are fine, but it is hard to keep track of all the ones. Like if I had to go make a list of everything all the apps I used to date, it would be embarrassing.
Girl, you gotta. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
So
okay.
you were abroad. This is a bad analogy.
I was all over town.
You were all over town, all over the app town, all over that picture, that circle.
Yeah. So yeah. So
you've chopped some a little bit though. Like so, you've shed some.
Yeah. So if we're thinking about like, let's take. I'm sorry, the dog keeps hitting the bell to go out the door. So if I am looking at like workflow, like practice management apps, like you said, you're using Asana. We've used Asana. We've used Teamwork. We've used Trello. We've used Xero's practice manager platform. We've used a lot of things. So like, yeah, I've been around the block. Like I've seen a bunch of things. So that's just part of it. That's just part of it.
My last question was just this concept. So let's go back to thinking about who this audience really is. And so new people, how would you put yourself in their shoes? How do you balance bringing on clients that's kind of outside of your desired ecosystem? Do you have any like tips for like how we can solve that problem with, you got one client and it's like, it's your father-in-law, and then so you're ready for that second client, and there's like, how would you make the decision based on their ecosystem to bring them on or not? Because you could make a bad decision, it could take all the fun out of it. So how would you suggest balancing that?
Yeah, taking on a client is not life or death. So if you need to fire a client, you can fire a client. It is not like having a baby,
Yeah.
So if you're starting your business, I'm going to lean on the side of taking clients and learning. Now, I will caution, I would not take on multiple clients all at one time. I would put myself in the mind frame of like a sprint and say, okay, I have a new client. For the next 2 weeks, all I'm going to do is learn this client and their apps inside out. I'm going to really focus on onboarding the client, understanding them, making sure I document those processes and workflows and stuff. And then before I take on another client, it might be 2 weeks, it might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks. So I wouldn't take on a lot of clients all at once. But especially in the beginning, how do I know you don't know what you don't know. So until you get into a client and look at an app or look at their ecosystem, how would you know that that's a bad deal?
Yeah. I can just share one of my stories, like this concept of like payroll sounded so big and scary to me. 3 years ago, I'm like just remembering how, fundamentals of accounting, and I'm like, it's fine and it's funny and it's just everyone is there, whether they were there at 18 years old in their first accounting class or whether they're there at 38 when they're starting or 58. So you're at this beginning stage, and I'm just like, payroll, way too intense. That's people feed their families. Like, and it's just like, no, you just use Gusto. I don't know. Like, and would I do so now I kind of understand, like, would I do a client where I had to where they had tons of hourly employees that had to be paid every Friday? Like, maybe not, maybe I wouldn't want to do that, but it wasn't this big scary thing anymore. So I'm just saying that to the kind of folks who asked the question about, how do you not get overwhelmed? Like, Gusto is an app. There's a lot of payroll apps, and the cloud. Like, I just thought I was like, I don't even know what all those lines on the the W-2s mean? Like, how can I do payroll?
Possibly do payroll.
Yeah,
Turns
like,
out they do it for you.
I haven't had a paycheck in forever. Like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. So how can I do it? But yeah, it slowly becomes, but I learned it quickly. I'm sure that the very first client that I needed, that was like, you know, I had a solopreneur guy and he hired someone, and I'm just like, okay. And I did I mean, sounds so simple because it's not that heavy or silly saying this because it's not a lot of heavy lifting. People who are experienced are probably laughing at me, but it's just my story and it's the way it is. So when he first did it, I'm like, I think he probably emailed me, which was good because then I'm just like, okay, I'll get back to you soon. And then I'm like, oh, okay, like he's hiring somebody. Like I knew it was probably going to happen, but I did the sprint. Like, what does that mean? How can I do this? I don't want to lose this client. It can't be that hard. Okay, like it's a salaried position. Okay, that's a perfect way to, you know, you just set it and forget it kind of, you know?
Yeah.
And it made it, I did that sprint and then we got him set up and I called, you know, all these apps have support lines, you know, I mean, like I was on the phone with Gusto, you know, in that 2 weeks, like, what do I do? I think I said that. I was like, this is my first onboard. What do I do? And they tell you. So
you can do hard things. And I mean, not just you, I mean, the group, you can do hard things. And you know what, after you do it a couple times, they're not hard anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Now I'm just like setting up a guy yesterday. I'm making his Virginia payroll tax accounts. I'm like, okay, it's annoying, but it's not rocket science. Like once it's done, it's done. Every once in a while, there'll be a few changes, but yeah, but I know what it was like to be like, I can't do that thing. Or I don't even know what that means. And then I studied it and I learned it. And would it have been good? Yeah, I'm glad I didn't try to bring on 5 clients that all had payroll in 5 different states at once, but one.
Well, this is how we got our name, Elephant. I don't know if I ever even told you this. Elephant is how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So better books one bite at a time. So that's where the name came from. Baby steps going in the right direction.
Yeah. All right, y'all got a couple more seconds to ask any other questions. We have Zuzu is saying, I'm loving this. Thank you. Steve I think you're a little bit saltier, Steve, right? You you've done a few of these things too. So glad you're even, and I've seen you answer questions in the group too. So thanks for doing that. Shannon loves payroll, which I knew that. That's crazy. Glad for people like you. All right. Any other questions about ecosystems? Amanda, thank you so much for doing this. Yeah, I think we had you on about 6 months ago, so we're just going to keep you on the regular clock. Next time your son interrupts, we'll make him get on the camera and embarrass him.
I know. I apologize for all the chaos. It's a little chaotic in here.
Yeah,
I don't have the dog and stuff. Usually the dog, which when I started this, the dog was inside. But since Jack came outside to tell me that he needed the basketball for practice in the middle of this, he let the dog in. So this is real life. This is real life running a practice. Thank you for inviting me. I think everybody knows I do try to keep tabs on the group. So if you have questions specifically, just tag me. And if I don't answer, it's because I didn't see it. So tag me again.
Tag her again. Yeah. I can vouch for that. And y'all, I do want to just promote her learning library really quickly. Again, you can use it as kind of like really detailed learning where you're sitting down and being formal, or you can do it on the Stairmaster or on the walk in the morning and listen to it. And then remember, like if you hear something that you want to see, like, okay, I got to go back and watch 40 minutes in again to pay attention to what she did or what the speaker did. Lots of good content on there. So grab that learning library. It's like a subscription-based thing. So it'd be really good for people who are, maybe wanting, just a few months worth of like getting back into the swing of things. You'll learn to speak the lingo really well. That's one of the things I found with you and your peers, Amanda, is just like, y'all kind of talk. You just have like almost, there's a vocabulary to this business that I did not know 3 years ago. And I certainly don't know as much as y'all, but I can say things that like I never thought I would never have been able to say 3 years ago because because I'm putting y'all in my ears, you and your, education colleagues.
All this accounting, bookkeeping stuff, and cloud stuff, and technology stuff, I was afraid of it when I finished college. Like I was really afraid of software. It's all vocabulary. It is all just lingo, code switching stuff. It is not hard. It's not hard stuff. It's just about understanding like the concepts and the words for them. So yeah, to your point, it's not, yeah.
All right.
And I will say you can, for anybody who wants to, it is a subscription, there is no commitment. So if you want to jump in for 1 month and learn everything you can and cancel, you are totally welcome to do that. I would encourage you to do that. You'll
and
find
anyone who wants to learn Xero, this is the learning library is the best place to, if you want to learn Xero quickly, because I'm looking for a course for people about Xero, and they just don't really exist. So this is a nice little, it's like there's a Xero like package that takes you through a lot. And for, you can learn that in a month for sure. You can get through all the Xero stuff. So,
okay,
hey, I'll let you go.
Gotta
Bye.
run.
It was good.
Bye.
Have fun with the dog. Bye.
Thanks.